Family should be your sanctuary, not your battlefield. For years, I supported my younger brother Jason and his family financially while building my tech business. That New Year's Eve, I arrived at his house with gifts only to hear those cutting words through the door. His rejection crushed me, but it also awakened something. I never imagined our relationship would crumble over money, or that his betrayal would force me to choose between being used and standing my ground. Before I share what happened next, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if family drama resonates with you. I still remember the neighborhood where Jason and I grew up in Seattle. The streets lined with modest homes, kids playing basketball at the community court, and the constant drizzle that became the soundtrack of our childhood. Our parents worked multiple jobs to keep us fed and clothed. Mom was a nurse who often pulled double shifts while Dad juggled his day job as a mechanic with evening work as a security guard. Those early years taught me to be protective of Jason. Being 4 years older meant I was always looking out for him. When neighborhood bullies targeted my scrawny little brother, I was there. When he struggled with math homework, I stayed up late to help him understand. We formed a bond that seemed unbreakable, swearing a solemn promise one summer night, under the stars, that we would always have each other's backs. "No matter what happens, Phoenix, we stick together," Jason had said, his 12-year-old voice cracking with emotion. "Family first, always." I nodded in agreement, believing those words would define our relationship forever. After high school, I worked my way through college with part-time jobs, sometimes pulling 20-hour days between classes and work. The exhaustion was worth it when I graduated with my computer science degree and minimal student debt. While my friends were partying or traveling, I was building the foundation of what would become Horizon Solutions, my tech startup focusing on cybersecurity for small businesses. The early years of entrepreneurship taught me about sacrifice. I lived in a tiny studio apartment, ate ramen, more often than I cared to admit, and reinvested every penny of profit back into the company. By 28, those sacrifices started paying off. Horizon Solutions secured several major clients, and I finally moved into a modest but comfortable 2-bedroom apartment. Nothing extravagant, but a place I was proud to call home. Meanwhile, Jason had taken a different path. He married Tara right out of high school, and they quickly had 2 children. Emma came first, a bright-eyed little girl with her father's smile. Lucas followed 2 years later, a sweet boy who unfortunately was diagnosed with a chronic respiratory condition that required ongoing medical care. Jason bounced between jobs, never quite finding his footing. He worked as a sales associate, delivery driver, call center representative, and warehouse worker, but nothing stuck longer than a year. Tara took occasional shifts as a waitress, but with Lucas needing special attention, consistent work proved challenging for her. The first time Jason asked for financial help was for one of Lucas's medical bills. His voice was strained with embarrassment when he called me. "Phoenix, I hate to ask this," he said, his voice barely audible, "but we got this bill from Lucas's specialist. $3,000 that insurance won't cover. I don't know what to do, man." "Send me the bill information," I responded without hesitation. "I'll take care of it." The relief in his voice was palpable. "I swear I'll pay you back as soon as I can." We both knew that might never happen, but it did not matter to me. I was in a position to help my brother and his family. What else was financial success good for, if not to support the people you love? That first medical bill opened the floodgates. Soon I was covering more of their expenses. When Jason mentioned they might lose their house due to missed mortgage payments, I set up an automatic transfer to cover it each month. When their electricity was about to be shut off, I paid the outstanding balance and added their utility bills to my monthly responsibilities. Before long, I was covering everything from groceries to the children's school supplies and extracurricular activities. There was no formal agreement, just a mutual understanding that I would help until they got back on their feet. I never minded. Every time I visited and saw Emma's artwork on the refrigerator or watched Lucas playing in the backyard, I felt a sense of purpose. My business success meant something because it allowed these 2 wonderful children to have stability. The first signs of entitlement were subtle. Jason stopped saying thank you when I paid for things. Tara began making comments about how lucky I was to have money, as if my success had fallen from the sky rather than being earned through countless sleepless nights and calculated risks. When I brought Christmas gifts for the kids, Tara remarked that her friends' children had received newer, more expensive versions of the same items. I dismissed these red flags, telling myself they were under stress, and did not mean to sound ungrateful. Besides, I wasn't helping them for gratitude or recognition. I was doing it because they were family, and family takes care of each other. At least that's what I believed. Last New Year's Eve marked the beginning of the end. I arrived at Jason and Tara's house around 8 p.m., carrying gifts for everyone and a bottle of champagne to toast the upcoming year. Their driveway was full of cars I recognized as belonging to their neighbors and friends. Music and laughter spilled from the open windows of their suburban home, the one I had been paying the mortgage on for the past 3 years. As I approached the front door, I overheard voices through the partially open window. I recognized Jason's distinctive laugh, followed by words that stopped me cold. "Phoenix." "Nah, he's not coming until later. Probably working as usual," Jason was saying to someone. "The guy has no life outside his precious business. Kind of sad, really." I should have walked away then, but curiosity rooted me to the spot. "At least he's good for paying the bills." A female voice that I recognized as Tara's responded, followed by snickering. "Though he acts like it makes him part of the family or something." "Right," Jason replied. "Like paying the mortgage gives him the right to have opinions about how we raise the kids or spend our money." "He's just lonely," Tara continued. "Using money to feel important because he has nobody in his life. No wife, no kids, just his business." "You think we could get him to cover the cost of that cruise we were looking at?" another voice asked. Probably, Jason laughed. "Just have to make up some story about needing a family vacation for the kids' mental health or something. He falls for that kind of thing every time." The champagne bottle suddenly felt heavy in my hands. 3 years of financial support, thousands of dollars each month, countless hours spent with Emma and Lucas, all reduced to a punchline at a party. I felt physically ill. I knocked on the door loudly, unable to pretend I hadn't heard. The conversation inside stopped abruptly. After a moment of silence, footsteps approached, and Jason opened the door, halfway blocking my view of the gathering inside. "Phoenix," he said. Surprise, and something else, guilt, perhaps flickering across his face. "You're early. We weren't expecting you yet." "Clearly," I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I heard what you were saying about me." His expression hardened defensiveness, replacing guilt. "So you're eavesdropping now. Nice, real nice." "I wasn't eavesdropping. I was walking to your front door when I heard you mocking me to your friends." Tara appeared behind Jason, her face flushed from alcohol or embarrassment. I couldn't tell which. "Phoenix, you're overreacting. We were just joking around." "Joking about using me for money?" I asked, my voice rising, despite my efforts to stay calm. "Joking about manipulating me with stories about the kids." Jason's posture changed, becoming aggressive. "Look, if you're going to be dramatic about this, maybe you should go cool off and come back later. I want to know if that's really how you see me," I insisted. "As an ATM with no right to be part of this family, despite everything I've done." "Everything you've done," Jason scoffed. "You write some checks and think you're a hero. Try actually raising kids and dealing with real problems instead of throwing money around like it makes you special." The words hit like physical blows. "I have been here for you, for Emma, for Lucas, for everything you've needed. Get lost." "Phoenix," Jason snapped, starting to close the door. "Paying the bills doesn't make you worthy of anything. We don't need your judgment or your money with strings attached." Jason the first called, but the door slammed in my face, leaving me standing on the porch with gifts and champagne in hand, surrounded by the sounds of a party continuing inside, as if nothing had happened. The drive home was a blur. Tears streamed down my face as I navigated the rain-slicked streets of Seattle, the city lights blurring through my windshield. 3 years of financial support, 36 mortgage payments, countless medical bills, school supplies, birthday presents, Christmas gifts, all dismissed as meaningless by the person I had sacrificed so much to help. I entered my empty apartment just before midnight. While others celebrated the new year with champagne and kisses, I sat in my darkened living room scrolling through my banking app and looking at all the automatic payments set up for Jason's family. The total was staggering when viewed all at once. Nearly 40% of my monthly income went directly to supporting them. That night, as fireworks exploded over the Seattle skyline, I made a resolution that had nothing to do with weight loss or career goals. I decided I would no longer enable behavior that devalued my contribution and my place in the family. Morning came, and with it clarity. I systematically went through my accounts and canceled every automatic payment associated with Jason's family. Mortgage, utilities, credit cards, subscription services, everything. Then I transferred my remaining funds to a newly created account at a different bank, leaving just enough in the original account to cover my own expenses for the month. Then freeze, without a dime from me. I whispered to myself as I confirmed the final cancellation. The words felt both liberating and terrifying. What would happen to Emma and Lucas? Would this hurt them? The thought made my stomach churn with guilt, but I reminded myself that their parents were adults who needed to take responsibility. The first call came at 9:17 a.m., exactly when the cancellation confirmations would have hit Jason's email. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call 3 minutes later. Then a text message. "What the hell are you doing? Turn the payments back on now." I didn't respond. More messages followed each, more desperate and angry than the last. By afternoon, Tara had joined the barrage, her messages swinging between rage and pleading. "The kids are going to suffer because of your ego. Please, Phoenix, if you ever cared about Emma and Lucas at all, you can't just cut us off without warning." I maintained my silence, though each message was like a knife twisting in my gut. A lifetime of being the responsible one, the provider, the protector made this boundary setting feel unnatural and cruel. But I kept reminding myself of what I had overheard. They saw me as nothing more than a wallet, a lonely man using money to buy a place in their family. Mutual friends began reaching out, having heard Jason's version of events. Some expressed concern for my sudden breakdown. Others openly criticized my abandonment of my brother's family. Only one friend, Derek, asked for my side of the story before making judgments. "I've known you for 20 years, Phoenix," he said when I finally answered his call. "You're not the kind of person who does something like this without reason. What happened?" When I told him about the New Year's Eve incident, he fell silent for a long moment. "That's messed up, man," he finally said. "You've done everything for them." His understanding provided a small measure of comfort, but it didn't ease the crushing weight of guilt I felt when I thought about Emma and Lucas. What kind of uncle abandons his niece and nephew? Was I punishing innocent children for their parents' behavior? These questions haunted me through sleepless nights, as the first consequences of my decision began to materialize. 2 weeks after New Year's, the real crisis began for Jason's family. The mortgage payment was due, and for the first time in 3 years, there was no automatic transfer from my account to cover it. The utility companies started sending shut-off notices. Credit card minimum payments were missed. The comfortable life they had grown accustomed to was rapidly unraveling. Jason's attempts to borrow money from friends quickly hit dead ends. Most of their social circle lived paycheck to paycheck themselves and couldn't cover the substantial amounts needed. Tara's parents retired, and living on a fixed income in Florida, sent what they could, but it was barely enough to keep food on the table. The reality of their financial dependency was hitting them hard. Years of relying on my support had left them unprepared for independence. Jason had never felt the need to advance his career or seek better employment because there was always my safety net. Tara had never returned to work full-time because they could manage on what I provided. I kept tabs on the situation through Derek, who remained friends with both of us. He reported that Jason was frantically applying for better jobs and overtime opportunities. Tara had taken on additional waitressing shifts. They were selling furniture and electronics to make ends meet. Part of me felt vindicated that they were finally taking responsibility, but another part ached knowing they were struggling. Then came the confrontation I had been dreading. 23 days after I had cut off financial support, Jason showed up at my office building downtown. I was returning from lunch when I spotted him, pacing nervously in the lobby. He looked different, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes, and a rumpled appearance that spoke of sleepless nights. "We need to talk," he said, when he saw me, his voice carrying across the polished marble floor. "This isn't the place, Jason," I replied, quietly aware of curious glances from coworkers and security personnel. "Where is the place, then? You won't answer my calls or texts. You've disappeared from our lives with no explanation." "No explanation. You told me to get lost, that paying your bills didn't make me worthy of anything. I'm just respecting your wishes." His face flushed with anger. That was one comment made in the heat of the moment. "You're going to destroy our lives over that." By now, several people had stopped to watch our exchange, including my company's head of security, Miguel, who was moving subtly closer to us. One comment I kept my voice controlled despite my rising anger. You and Tara were laughing about manipulating me with the kids. You were mocking me to your friends for having no life, while I was working to support your family. So this is revenge, he shot back. You're punishing my children because your feelings got hurt. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply stopping the financial support that you clearly resent. You can't have it both ways, Jason. You can't take my money while simultaneously treating me like an outsider who has no right to be part of your family. The bank called about foreclosure proceedings, he said, his voice breaking slightly. Lucas has a doctor's appointment next week that we can't afford. Is that what you wanted? To watch us crash and burn? The mention of Lucas sent a wave of guilt through me, but I stood my ground. What I wanted was to be treated with respect and included as family, not used as an ATM. What you're experiencing now is the natural consequence of your choices and attitude. You self-righteous jerk, he snarled, stepping toward me aggressively. You think you're better than everyone because you have money. Miguel stepped between us before the situation could escalate further. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises, he said to Jason firmly. This isn't over, Phoenix. Jason called as security escorted him toward the exit. You can't just abandon your family and think there won't be consequences. His words echoed in my head as I rode the elevator up to my office. Family. Was I abandoning family? Or was I finally respecting myself enough to walk away from a relationship that had become toxic and one-sided? The following day, I received an email from Jason's mortgage company, informing me that as the person who had been making payments, I should be aware that the property was now at risk of foreclosure proceedings. Seeing it in official terms made the situation real, in a way that Jason's angry words hadn't. Their house, the home where Emma and Lucas grew up, where they felt safe, was in danger of being lost. I sat in my home office that night, staring at the email and wrestling with my conscience. The children's faces kept appearing in my mind. Emma with her gap-toothed smile and passion for painting Lucas with his gentle nature and love of dinosaurs. They hadn't done anything wrong. They were innocent victims in this adult conflict. After hours of internal debate, I called a financial advisor I trusted to discuss options. I needed an approach that would protect the children without enabling Jason and Tara's entitled behavior or exposing myself to further exploitation. You could set up a trust, my advisor suggested after hearing the situation. Designate funds specifically for the children's needs. Education, healthcare, housing stability, with strict conditions and oversight. The parents wouldn't have direct access to the money, and you could include requirements like financial counseling or employment benchmarks. It was a solution that appealed to both my desire to protect Emma and Lucas and my need to establish boundaries with Jason and Tara. I spent the next few days researching trusts and consulting with a family law attorney about implementation. Then came a surprising development. I received a text message from a number I didn't recognize. This is Amanda, Tara's sister. We need to talk about Jason and Tara and what's really been happening with your money. Can we meet? I vaguely remembered Amanda from family gatherings, a straightforward, no-nonsense woman who had always seemed uncomfortable with the dynamic between me and her sister's family. Curiosity piqued. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop the following day. Amanda arrived punctually dressed in scrubs from her job as a dental hygienist. After brief greetings, she got straight to the point. You should know that Jason has a gambling problem, she said, her voice low but firm. It started about 2 years ago with sports betting and escalated from there. A significant portion of the money you've been providing has been going to cover his losses and debts. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Gambling. Are you sure? She nodded grimly. Tara confided in me last year when Jason took out a payday loan to cover a particularly bad loss. She was terrified you would find out and cut them off. The irony is that your consistent support has enabled his addiction to continue unchecked. What about the kids? What about their needs? The kids have been taken care of, Amanda assured me. Tara makes sure of that much. But the financial cushion you provided removed any urgency for Jason to address his problem. Why stop gambling when there's always more money coming from his big brother? As Amanda shared more details, pieces started falling into place. The occasional unexplained cash withdrawals I had noticed in their joint account that I had access to. Jason's resistance when I suggested setting up direct payments to service providers rather than transferring money to their checking account. The mysterious emergencies that seem to crop up whenever I ask questions about their financial management. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally asked. "Because I care about my niece and nephew," Amanda replied without hesitation. "And because this cycle needs to end. Jason needs real help, not another bailout. Tara needs to stop covering for him. And you deserve to know the truth about where your money has been going." Armed with this new information and a clearer perspective on the situation, I refined my plan. Simply cutting them off completely would leave the children vulnerable, but returning to my role as the financial safety net would only perpetuate destructive patterns. I needed a third option that addressed the root problems while protecting those who were truly vulnerable. Over the next several days, I researched gambling addiction treatment programs, family support services, and financial counseling options. I contacted specialists in addiction recovery, consulted with my attorney about legal protections, and even spoke with a family therapist about how to approach the situation in a way that would minimize trauma for Emma and Lucas. By the end of the week, I had compiled a comprehensive plan. I reached out to Jason and Tara requesting a meeting at a neutral location, a private room at a local community center. I specified that both needed to attend and that the discussion would determine my future involvement with their family. "This is your opportunity to salvage the situation," I wrote in my message. "If you genuinely want my help, you'll be there. Sunday at 2 p.m. Sunday arrived with gray skies and intermittent rain, typical Seattle weather that matched the somber mood of the day. I arrived at the community center 30 minutes early to set up the room. I arranged documents on the table, including bank statements, highlighting suspicious withdrawals information about gambling addiction, and the paperwork for the trust I was considering establishing for Emma and Lucas. Jason and Tara arrived exactly on time, both looking tense and defensive. Jason's posture was rigid with pride, despite the desperation in his eyes. Tara's gaze darted around the room, never quite meeting mine. They sat across from me, a united front despite the strain evident in their body language. "Thank you for coming." I began, keeping my tone neutral and professional. "Like we had a choice," Jason muttered. I met his eyes steadily. "You always have a choice, Jason. Just as I had a choice when you told me to get lost, because paying your bills didn't make me worthy." He had the decency to look away first. "I've learned some things in the past few weeks that have changed my understanding of our situation." I continued, sliding a folder across the table. "This contains bank statements showing unusual cash withdrawals and transfers from your joint account over the past 2 years. Nearly $60,000 that can't be accounted for in your regular expenses." Tara's sharp intake of breath was audible in the quiet room. She turned to Jason, whose face had drained of color. "You said it was only 20,000, she whispered, betrayal evident in her voice. "I know about the gambling, Jason," I said quietly. "I know that my financial support hasn't just been going toward your family's needs. It's been enabling an addiction." "Who told you?" he demanded, looking between me and Tara suspiciously. "Does it matter? The evidence is right there in black and white. You had no right to investigate us." He shot back. But the fight was leaving, his voice replaced by the hollow tone of someone whose deception has finally caught up with them. "I had every right to understand where my money was going," I countered. "Money that I earned through hard work and freely gave to support your family, only to be mocked and dismissed when it suited you." Tara began to cry silently, her shoulders shaking. "We're going to lose everything," she said, her voice barely audible. "Not necessarily," I replied, pulling out another folder. "I've developed a proposal that could provide stability for your family while addressing the underlying issues that brought us to this point." I outlined my plan methodically. There would be no more direct cash transfers to their accounts. Instead, I would establish a trust for Emma and Lucas that would cover educational expenses, healthcare costs, and contribute to housing stability. Bills would be paid directly to service providers. Additional support would be contingent on both Jason and Tara meeting specific conditions. "Jason, you need to enroll in a gambling addiction treatment program," I stated firmly. "I've researched several options covered by your insurance. Tara, you both need to attend financial counseling to learn budgeting skills and debt management." "You're trying to control our lives," Jason protested, but with less conviction than I expected. "No, I'm offering to help on terms that won't enable destructive behaviors," I corrected him. "You're adults who need to take responsibility for your choices. I'm willing to provide support during that process, but I won't continue to fund self-destruction or be treated as an outsider in the family I've helped sustain." And if we refuse, Tara asked quietly, then I'll establish a more limited trust solely for the children's education and health care payable directly to providers with no housing support. You'll need to figure out the rest on your own. The reality of their situation sank in as they reviewed the documents I had prepared. Jason's resistance gradually gave way to resignation, while Tara's expression shifted from despair to cautious hope. You'd still help us after everything, she asked, genuine surprise in her voice. I'm not helping you for your sake, I clarified. I'm doing this for Emma and Lucas, who deserve stability and a healthy family environment. And I'm doing it for myself. Because despite everything, you're still my family. But things will never go back to how they were before. That relationship was unhealthy for all of us. After 2 hours of discussion, negotiation, and occasional heated exchanges, we reached an agreement. Jason would enroll in treatment and attend Gamblers Anonymous meetings. Both would participate in financial counseling. I would establish the trust for the children and make arrangements with their mortgage company to prevent immediate foreclosure. We would have monthly family meetings to discuss progress and address any issues that arose. As they prepared to leave, Jason hesitated, then extended his hand to me. I know saying sorry isn't enough, he said, his voice rough with emotion. But I am sorry, Phoenix. Not just because we're in this mess, but because I forgot what it means to be brothers. I accepted his handshake, neither fully forgiving nor holding on to bitterness. We have a long way to go to rebuild trust, I told him honestly. But this is a start. The transition wasn't smooth. The first month saw resistance and backsliding. Jason missed a therapy appointment. Tara complained about the strictness of the budgeting requirements. There were arguments and accusations during our family meetings. But gradually, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. By the third month, Jason was actively participating in his recovery program. He found a better job with consistent hours and benefits. Tara returned to school part-time to complete the nursing degree she had abandoned when Lucas was born. Their financial counselor reported genuine progress in their understanding of money management. Most importantly, my relationship with Emma and Lucas strengthened. Without the tension and resentment that had previously clouded family gatherings, we developed a more authentic connection. I attended Emma's school art show and cheered from the sidelines at Lucas's first t-ball game. They visited my apartment for weekend sleepovers, filling the space with laughter and energy I hadn't realized was missing from my life. 6 months after that painful New Year's Eve, we gathered at my apartment to celebrate Independence Day. As I watched Jason helping Lucas build a model rocket in my living room, with genuine patience and engagement, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. Tara and Emma were in the kitchen preparing a salad to accompany the barbecue we had planned, their conversation punctuated by shared laughter. "This is nice," Tara said quietly when she joined me on the balcony. "Better than before, in a way. More real." I nodded in agreement. "It is. I never properly thanked you," she continued, looking out at the Seattle skyline rather than at me. "Not just for the financial help, but for caring enough to set boundaries. It would have been easier to just walk away completely. Family is complicated," I replied, "but worth the effort." When New Year's Eve came around again, exactly 1 year after the incident that had changed everything, Jason surprised me with an invitation to their home. The same house, the same holiday, but everything else had changed. The gathering was smaller this time, just family and a few close friends. When midnight approached, Jason clinked his glass to get everyone's attention. "I want to propose a toast," he said, his gaze finding mine across the room. "To my brother Phoenix. A year ago I said some unforgivable things to him right here in this house. I told him that paying our bills didn't make him worthy, when the truth is that his support, financial and otherwise, was far more than we deserved." Tara slipped her hand into Jason's, offering silent support as he continued. "This past year has been the hardest and most important of my life. I've had to face my demons, take responsibility for my actions, and learn what it really means to be worthy of the people who love me. Phoenix, thank you for having the courage to stop enabling me and start truly helping me. I wouldn't be standing here 10 months sober if you hadn't made that difficult choice." I felt a lump form in my throat as Jason raised his glass of sparkling cider. "To Phoenix, who taught me that true family support means loving someone enough to hold them accountable." As glasses clinked around the room, I reflected on the journey we had taken. The pain had been necessary, the confrontation unavoidable. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop rescuing them from the consequences of their actions. In the year that followed, our family continued to heal and grow stronger. Jason maintained his sobriety and advanced in his new career. Tara completed her nursing degree and secured a position at a local hospital. Emma and Lucas thrived in the more stable environment their parents created. As for me, I learned valuable lessons about the difference between helping and enabling, about setting boundaries without closing my heart, and about the true meaning of family beyond financial support. I also recognized my own role in the unhealthy dynamic that had developed, acknowledging that my need to be needed had contributed to the imbalance in our relationship. True worth isn't measured in dollars given or bills paid. It's found in mutual respect, honest communication, and the courage to choose difficult truth over comfortable deception. Sometimes the most valuable gift you can give someone is the opportunity to stand on their own feet and discover their own strength. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision about helping a family member? Would you have handled this situation differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe for more real-life experiences about family dynamics and personal growth. Remember, supporting someone doesn't always mean giving them what they want. Sometimes it means giving them what they need. Thank you for listening, and may your own family relationships be built on respect, honesty, and genuine love.